Do you remember Whitney Houston? Yes, one of the most legendary voices in music history, conquered millions of hearts with her outstanding talent and immortal hits. However, her life ended tragically, with hardships and pain that not everyone knows. The answer will be revealed soon as we delve deeper into her life and tragic end. Career beginning. Whitney Houston's childhood was not an easy one, but she grew up in a musical and creative household, which had a profound impact on her later musical career. Born into a family with a long musical tradition, her mother, Whitney Houston, was a famous gospel and R&B singer, and Whitney was raised in a musical environment from a very young age. She could sing from the age of 5, and her mother was her first mentor in her musical path. Besides Whitney Houston, Whitney also had other relatives in the music industry, including her younger sister Dionne Warwick, a famous singer. Therefore, music became an indispensable part of Whitney's life from a young age. Despite her family's fame, Whitney's childhood was not without challenges. She grew up in a rough neighborhood in Newark, where poverty and crime were common. However, her family always tried to provide her with the best opportunities, and Whitney was educated at the local school, where she began to develop her singing talent. She also began performing at churches and local events as a teenager. But it wasn't until she turned 15 that Whitney began her professional music career, when she was discovered by producer Clive Davis. This was a pivotal moment in Whitney's life, opening the door to a stellar music career. Whitney Houston began her music career at a very early age, being discovered when she was just a talented teenager. Her career began when producer Clive Davis happened to hear Whitney singing in a jazz club in New York. Clive Davis immediately recognized Whitney's talent and signed her when she was only 19 years old. This was a major turning point in Whitney's career, marking the emergence of a new star in the music industry. She began recording her debut album, Whitney Houston, 1985, and the album immediately became a fever, topping the Billboard charts and receiving strong recognition from both professionals and the public. In particular, songs on the album, such as The Greatest Love of All, quickly became musical icons, expressing confidence and determination to overcome difficulties. Whitney was not only successful in music, but also made a strong impression through television shows and live performances, which made her a phenomenon in the music industry throughout the 1980s. In addition to releasing albums, Whitney Houston also began to be known through her roles in movies, with the movie The Bodyguard, 1992, becoming one of the most successful films of her career. When mentioning Whitney Houston, people cannot help but mention the legendary songs that she left for the next generation. One of the songs that brought her global fame was I Will Always Love You, a ballad by Dolly Parton that Whitney performed excellently. This is not only one of the best-selling songs of all time, but also a symbol of love, sacrifice, and emotional farewells. She successfully conveyed the emotional range of the song through her powerful voice and the sophistication in each verse. Along with I Will Always Love You, songs like How Will I Know, I Want to Dance with Somebody, and Greatest Love of All became icons of the 80s and 90s. Each song not only showcased Whitney's exceptional vocal talent, but also delivered powerful messages about freedom, love, and self-confidence. How Will I Know is known for its upbeat pop melody, a dance-oriented song, while Greatest Love of All conveys a message of self-love and self-development. Whitney not only stood out with ballads, but also dominated the upbeat songs, making her a versatile star in the music industry. Whitney Houston stood out not only for the hits she created, but also for the huge recognition from the experts. She was the winner of a series of prestigious music awards throughout her career. By the time of her death, Whitney had won a total of 6 Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year for The Bodyguard, one of the most successful albums of her career. The album has sold more than 45 million copies worldwide and is considered one of the most successful soundtrack albums of all time. She has also received 22 American Music Awards, including Favorite Pop Rock Female Artist and Favorite Pop Rock Album. Not only that, Whitney is also one of the best-selling artists of all time, with a total of more than 200 million records sold worldwide. This made her a role model for later artists and demonstrated her strong influence in the world music industry. She was not only commercially successful, but also recognized by experts for her vocal talent and innovation in performing style. Music critics have consistently praised Whitney Houston as one of the greatest voices in music history. She is considered a pioneer in combining pop, R&B, and soul, bringing a unique and unmistakable performance style. Whitney's voice has a power and clarity like no other, with the ability to soar on difficult notes while still maintaining deep emotions in each song. The public loves her for her approachability and simplicity in life, along with her enthusiasm and dedication to her career. In addition, Whitney's performance style cannot be ignored. She not only stands out with emotional ballads, but also possesses a strong, attractive stage presence, making all eyes turn to her every time she appears on stage. Whitney Houston's influence was not limited to music. She completely changed the way female artists were viewed in the entertainment industry, affirming that a female singer could be beautiful, talented, and successful in every aspect. Whitney was not only an ideal role model in terms of appearance, but also created a new standard of dedication in work and life. But despite being at the peak of her career, Whitney Houston's personal life was on a downward slope. Personal life and struggles. The relationship between Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown is one of the most famous and tumultuous love stories in entertainment history. The two first met in the 1980s when they were both big music stars and married in 1992. The marriage was initially well received by the public because both were famous and loved. However, after a while, the tension in their relationship began to show, partly due to differences in lifestyle and career. Bobby Brown, despite being a famous R&B star, also had many problems related to his behavior and personal life. The marriage was not only affected by both of their busy careers, but also by problems in the relationship. Whitney once publicly said that Bobby could not control his behavior while she was trying to maintain a perfect image in the public eye. Although they had a daughter together, Bobby Christina, their family life was constantly strained, and conflicts over both finances and lifestyle added to the strain on the relationship. Their marriage eventually ended in 2007 when they officially divorced, a major turning point in Whitney's life, but also the end of a difficult chapter in her personal life. Whitney's family life was affected not only by her relationship with Bobby Brown, but also by other family issues. Whitney Houston was the only child of a famous singer, Cissy Houston. However, Whitney did not always receive the emotional support she needed from her family. Whitney's successful career brought with it many responsibilities, and her relationship with her mother was not always smooth. Cissy Houston had very high expectations for her daughter, which sometimes put enormous pressure on Whitney. Not only that, Whitney also faced several health problems throughout her career. She underwent surgeries to treat throat and vocal problems, which seriously affected her ability to perform. These health problems, combined with stress in her family and personal relationships, prevented Whitney from maintaining the stability and success in her career as before. In her later years, Whitney Houston began to suffer from addiction issues, partly due to the stress of her family life, personal failures, and the immense pressure from the public. She began abusing drugs and alcohol in the late 1990s, and her addiction became more and more serious. This not only affected her health, but also caused her career to fall into crisis. Her addiction problems made it impossible for Whitney to maintain her previous performance and recording schedule. Her public appearances became increasingly rare and no longer resembled her peak. This addiction also caused many problems in Whitney's relationships, especially in her marriage to Bobby Brown. In many interviews and television shows, Whitney admitted to her substance abuse. However, she also expressed the difficulty in overcoming this addiction. Addiction not only affected Whitney Houston's image, but also caused her to endure a lot of criticism from the media and the public. Although she tried to recover in a few treatments, the effects of addiction pushed her away from the spotlight, causing her career to decline further. This addiction was one of the main factors leading to the decline in Whitney Houston's life and career. An important factor that prevented Whitney Houston from overcoming the difficult period in her life was the excessive attention of the media. Every step she took was hounded and reported by the press and the media, sometimes to criticize and judge. Although Whitney Houston was a world-famous star, she could not avoid the enormous pressure that the public and the media put on her. The scandals related to her addiction and her relationship with Bobby Brown were reported excessively, making Whitney feel more and more tired. The media not only criticized Whitney, but also spread rumors and unfounded gossip. The invasion of her privacy and the constant criticism from the public caused her to suffer from a sense of self-destruction. In some interviews, Whitney even cried when talking about the media's dominance and its negative effects. This added to the stress in her personal life, making her feel like she was stuck in a spiral from which she could not escape. Ultimately, the combination of family problems, addiction, and media dominance prevented Whitney Houston from continuing to maintain her career at the peak. Her final years were a long journey of pain and loss, which left a sad mark on the life of one of the greatest musical legends of all time. She began to withdraw from the spotlight, attending fewer music events and refusing some performance invitations. New albums were no longer as successful as before, and her performances were no longer as popular as they had been at their peak. The decline and the breakup. Whitney Houston was known for her powerful and emotional voice, but after years of drug and alcohol abuse, her voice was no longer as strong as it once was. Whitney's later performances were no longer as well received as before, and her voice was severely affected by health problems and physical decline. One of the most obvious examples was her performance at the 2009 Grammy Awards, when Whitney appeared tired and her voice was weak, not as powerful as it had been. Although audiences still loved her, Whitney's performances began to disappoint, and the public questioned her ability to recover. In addition, some of Whitney's concerts did not achieve the expected results. She was criticized for not being able to complete the set as planned. The times Whitney had to stop performing or could not continue singing raised concerns about her health and condition. Tours were no longer as attractive as in the 1990s, when she was one of the most beloved stars. One of the major problems in Whitney's career was her long-term addiction, which not only affected her health, but also reduced her confidence in performing. Whitney Houston's health problems began to arise after a long period of suffering from addiction and work-related stress. She had to undergo many surgeries to treat problems related to her throat and voice. but these surgeries could not help her fully recover. Whitney had to be hospitalized many times for treatment, and each time she returned to the public, she faced difficulties in recovering her health. One of the most notable issues was that she had to undergo surgery to repair damage to her throat, where her voice had been severely affected by years of drug abuse. Despite the help of doctors and music experts, she still had difficulty maintaining her voice. Experts also advised her to take a break to recover, but Whitney could not break the habit of working continuously and participating in the projects she had committed to. Her lack of patience in treatment and recovery made her recovery process slow and difficult. Although Whitney still maintains her status as an international music icon, her influence in the public eye has gradually decreased. After her peak years, Whitney Houston no longer regularly appears at major events or music awards ceremonies. Her image has begun to fade, no longer the famous icon she once was. Her absence from events and refusal of major music projects has caused the public to start distancing herself from her. Although she still has a loyal fan base, Whitney's presence in the music industry has decreased. Young artists have begun to dominate the music market, and new names have replaced her in lists of the best artists. Whitney is no longer a name mentioned often in discussions about contemporary music. Her absence from music events and lack of new albums have gradually made her lose her appeal, although she is still remembered as a music legend. In addition, the media criticism of her personal life also contributed to the decline of Whitney Houston's image. Although she was still one of the legendary singers, her brilliance gradually faded and was no longer maintained as before. Controversies and criticisms about substance abuse caused her to fade from the spotlight. Overall, the decline of Whitney Houston's career was the result of a combination of health problems, a difficult personal life, and changes in the music industry. Despite her great contributions, the difficulties in her life prevented her from continuing to conquer the top as before. The tragic end of Whitney Houston. February 11, 2012 was a dark day for the music world when Whitney Houston passed away at the age of 48. Her death occurred in a luxury hotel in Beverly Hills, California, when she was discovered unconscious in the bathtub of her room. Although the cause was initially unclear, after the investigation, Whitney's death was concluded to be due to drowning. However, factors related to drug use and heart disease also played a large role in this tragic end. Doctors said she had suffered a cardiac arrest before her death, and drug abuse may have increased the risk of stroke. In contrast to the image of a music legend, Whitney's death took place in a regretful context. She died just days before she was scheduled to perform at the 2012 Grammy Awards. Whitney Houston was on the rise after a difficult few years. She had started to perform at major events again and was preparing for a new tour, a sign of her rebirth in the music industry. Everyone hoped that Whitney, with her unparalleled talent, would regain her former glory, but that comeback was cut short painfully and unexpectedly. In the days following Whitney's death, fans around the world expressed their deep grief. People were shocked by the untimely passing of a woman who had devoted her life to music. Memorial services and vigils took place in many places, from memorials in large music halls to tribute songs on stages. Music industry colleagues who had worked with her also expressed their great loss. Emotional tributes from celebrities like Mariah Carey, Beyoncé, and Celine Dion have made people feel more clearly the love and respect they have for Whitney Houston, who has inspired countless generations of artists. Whitney's death also reflects the tragedy of the music industry. Although she had experienced difficulties in her life and career, no one can deny that she was one of the greatest talents the music industry has ever had. Her sudden departure was not only a personal loss, but also a loss for the global music industry. Many in the industry could not believe that a genius voice like Whitney could leave so soon. Her death was like a huge shock to the entire music world and will forever leave a void that is difficult to fill. In the long run, Whitney Houston will not only be remembered as a special voice, but also as a symbol of rising and overcoming difficulties. Although her end was tragic, her musical legacy will live on, and the respect her fans have for her will never fade. Whitney Houston's death closed a sad chapter in music history, but the timeless love songs she left behind, such as "I Will Always Love You," will continue to resonate and be loved forever. Whitney Houston's legacy and tributes. Whitney Houston left a musical legacy that few artists can match. She was not only one of the greatest vocalists of the 20th century, but also one of the best-selling artists of all time. With over 200 million albums sold worldwide, Whitney left a lasting impression on fans and the music industry. Hits like "I Will Always Love You," "Greatest Love of All," and "How Will I Know" are not only timeless songs, but also perfect expressions of her unique vocal talent. Whitney's music is timeless. These songs are still listened to, loved, and sung by today's younger generation, affirming the longevity of her legacy. Not only that, but Whitney Houston is also widely recognized and honored in the music industry. She has received 6 Grammy Awards, 16 American Music Awards, 2 Emmy Awards, and countless other prestigious awards. These achievements are not only a testament to her talent, but also a recognition of her great contributions to the global music industry. After her death, memorial services and events were held to honor her as a music legend. Ceremonies such as the 2012 Grammy Awards and other memorial nights around the world have shown the love and respect that audiences and colleagues have for her. Whitney Houston's influence extends beyond her career to today's young artists. Whitney is an ideal role model for many young singers, especially female artists. People such as Beyoncé, Mariah Carey, Jennifer Hudson, and Ariana Grande have all shared that Whitney Houston was a great inspiration in their music careers. Generations of singers have looked to Whitney as a role model for her vocal technique, stage presence, and ability to create her unique sound. She was the first to demonstrate the perfect blend of R&B, pop, and soul, which opened the door for many other artists to pursue international music careers. However, Whitney Houston's legacy is not only about her music, but also a reminder of the trials and temptations that celebrities face. Whitney's final image will always be a symbol of her extraordinary talent, but also a warning about the personal struggles of famous artists. She was a shining star, but also faced addiction issues and pressures from her personal life. However, these difficulties cannot overshadow the success she achieved, and Whitney Houston's legacy will forever be an important part of music history. Whenever Whitney Houston is mentioned, people not only remember a great voice, but also a woman who fought against herself to create an eternal mark in the world of music. She will still be remembered as an irreplaceable legend, a model of greatness in music, but also a reminder of the fragility of glory and the challenges that each person must overcome in life. What do you think of her career and musical legacy? Did her struggles have too much of an impact on Whitney's legendary image? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. We would love to hear from you. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting updates. Thank you, and see you in the next videos.